So it's no secret that Bitcoin has been one of the best performing assets in the world for the past decade. But when you buy and at what price you buy matters massively. It could be the difference between having massive returns or losing like 80 or 90% of your capital. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact criteria that has historically been the best time to buy Bitcoin and how it's given us three major opportunities in Bitcoin's short lifetime. So when is the best time to buy Bitcoin? Well, the data shows that over the past 10 years, there have been three major times that I would put in like the best category. And then there's several other buying opportunities that have been really profitable, but have come with more risk. Now, it's important to say I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. And we're going to be looking at some historical examples, but there's no guarantee that this is going to work in the future. So let's start by taking a look at Bitcoin's performance from about 2010 to 2020. So Bitcoin's only been trading on exchanges for about 10 years. So we don't have a whole lot of price history to go off of. But if we take a look at when prices first started trading on Bitstamp back here in early 2012, this is really kind of the longest price history that we can get on a pretty reliable chart. And so if we take a look at, Bitcoin's performance over a 10-year time frame, a 5-year time frame, right on down to a few months, I mean, you can see, again, this has been pretty much the best performing asset in the world. And this chart's kind of hard to see, but if we look at what's called risk-adjusted returns versus other assets, you can see that Bitcoin, which is this blue line at the top, outperforms everything from US stocks, real estate, bonds, gold. Now, another way to think about risk-adjusted returns are metrics like the Sharpe ratio, which doesn't just take into consideration the gains or the appreciation in price, but it also looks at the volatility, right? And the higher the Sharpe ratio or the higher the risk-adjusted returns, that means the larger the gains are, even taking into consideration big swings in price. So yeah, Bitcoin is really, really volatile and sometimes it crashes by a massive percent. But over the past 10 years, the gains have just been so extreme that it has really made up for that volatility. And here's a tweet from earlier in the year where Plan B was showing that Bitcoin at that time was really the only asset with a Sharpe ratio over 1. Now, because the risk-adjusted returns have been so amazing for Bitcoin over the past 10 years, it's not only an attractive investment vehicle for individuals like you and me, but also companies, right? Recent times, we've seen large companies putting in hundreds of millions of dollars of their cash into Bitcoin, and I think we're going to see that trend accelerate over the next few years. But again, the important thing to keep in mind here is that timing matters. When you buy Bitcoin matters massively. And so how do we define when is the best time to actually buy Bitcoin? Well, the biggest goal here is that we want to have the smallest drawdowns with the biggest upside potential. And a drawdown means if you buy at 100 and it goes to 50 bucks, you're in the red $50 or 50%. And so the goal is to control your risk and try to minimize the risk as much as possible and increase your reward or the upside potential. In other words, you want to buy low and sell high. Now, everybody intuitively knows that, but nobody does it. So in this video, I'm going to try to actually teach you the best times where you can actually do that. And the best time where you typically get that lower risk and higher reward is during the accumulation phase of the crypto market cycle. And a few years ago, I did a video talking about the 5 phases of the crypto market cycle and how it's repeated over and over and over. And so if you haven't seen that, I'll link that up in the description. But in this video, we're going to focus on the accumulation phase of the market cycle. So now let's talk about the 3 steps to buying at the best price. And really, another way to say this is, how do you find those accumulation phases? So step 1 is price crashes 80% or more from the prior all-time high. So that means if price is going up and making really crazy highs and then it crashes by over 80% in price, That's the first step that you want to see. You don't want to buy when everybody else is in a buying frenzy. And then step 2 is when price stabilizes at support. So it's damn near impossible to know when a market is crashing where that exact bottom is going to be. So what you want to do is, if you see Bitcoin's price is crashing, you want to wait for price to stabilize at a support zone. And then the third step is price flatlines for anywhere in between 3 to 9 months. At least in these prior market cycles, that's what's happened, where we've gotten anywhere from 1 quarter to 3 quarters of a year, where price basically flatlines and consolidates at that support zone, aka the accumulation phase of the market cycle. So let's go back in time and take a look at the 3 opportunities that we've gone into these long-term accumulation phases. So the first time this happened on reliable trading volume was in early 2013, where the price ramped up from about 20 or 30 bucks up to over 250, and then in the span of a few days crashed back to around 50. So again, it had a big move up and then crashed by over 80%. And we can see that price hit support here at 50 bucks, which is prior resistance, and then basically flatlined for over 180 days, or about 6 months. And so you can see we had this range from about $50 up to about $150, and price was basically consolidating in this accumulation range before making its next massive move to the upside. And then after price went from 100 to over 1,000, you can see that price came down over the course of a year, again, from an all-time high, new all-time high here, down over 80%, found support in the 200 zone, and then here it had even longer, had almost a year, about 9 months of consolidation after it found support at 200 before reversing again for its next multi-year bull market. And then the third and most recent opportunity that we had here was after the 2017 bubble popped, where we got up to about 20,000, and then it came down again over 80% back into the $3,000 range, and then found prior support here in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, which started in early 2019, and basically we had about 130 days of consolidation. So this was the shortest accumulation period. So again, what makes these 3 historical examples the best time to buy? Well, that's where you got the best risk to reward, right? Whenever a market crashes and prices are low, mentally and psychologically for most people, it's very difficult to want to buy at that point because the market's bearish. Everybody's negative on Bitcoin. It's easier mentally to buy when everybody else is buying because of the herd mentality, right? This is what I've been doing videos about for, 8 years now? And no matter how many times I talk about this, I know that the mass majority of people will continue to do the opposite of what's actually profitable. Okay, so we covered the accumulation phase, which we've really had 3 major opportunities over the past 10 years, right? That's not very frequent. Now, there are other really good times to buy Bitcoin. They're not quite as beneficial on a risk to reward basis as the accumulation plays, but there are a few other ways that you can buy Bitcoin and put the odds in your favor. The first one is when price is close to retesting the prior year's low. So one thing that we can take a look at is if we look at the yearly lows going back to about 2012, you can see for all except 1 year, price, the yearly low in price made a higher low than the previous year. Okay, so again, 2012 was about $4, 2013 about $13, 2014 $2.75, 2015 is the only year that we actually made a lower low than the prior year, and then going into 2016 about $350, 2017 about $750, 2018 about $3,100, then $3,300, and then in 2020 $3,800. So one strategy that could give you favorable risk to reward is anytime you're close to that prior year's low. Now again, there's no guarantee that this is going to continue to work forever into the future, but if you're looking for some sort of edge or some way to just quantify, am I buying an expensive price or am I buying a cheap price, this is another way that you can try to gauge that. Now, another opportunity you have to buy at potentially really good prices is when price crashes by 50% or more in a few days. Now, this isn't something that happens every month or even every year, but when it does happen and it happens fast, that can be a really, really great opportunity to step in and catch a big bounce. And the most recent example of this was in March 2020 when the coronavirus fears were really rippling through the financial markets and Bitcoin crashed from about 8,000 down below 4,000 in less than 48 hours. So again, that was about a 50% sell-off. And you can see the result of that after the panic selling subsided, which really only lasted a day or two and had a really aggressive bounce over the next few months and made a local top above 12,000. So over 200% reversal move to the upside. Now, another example of this was back in 2013, where price went from about 850 bucks down below $400 and then had a pretty aggressive bounce back to the upside of about 150%. And it's important to point out though that this wasn't the all-time low. We actually went into a bear market for several months because again, we were just coming off of that big parabolic spike. And then the final time that could be a really good place to buy is when price is breaking out above a new all-time high. So the first example of this is in early 2013 when Bitcoin made a new all-time high above $15. It's pretty crazy to think about those prices, isn't it? And then in later 2013 when price was breaking out above $250, and then in early 2017 when price was breaking above $1,200. And so the next time that that would happen, if it does happen in the future, would be up here above $20,000. So again, just to recap, the absolute best time in Bitcoin's short history has been to buy at accumulation phases of the market cycle after an 80% crash, after it finds support, and after it consolidates at support for at least a few months. So is this going to continue to work in the future? Who knows? It's yet to be seen. The future is uncertain, but there are models that we can use to project and kind of predict Bitcoin's price out into the future, which I'll talk more about in future videos. But even if you're not able to buy in an accumulation range, there are other options, right? When price is retesting prior year's lows, when you get a fast crash of over 50% in a few days for a quicker bounce. Again, that's more advanced because you have to be quick on the trigger. But the third option is when price breaks out to a new all-time high, right? Those are typically really good inflection points to buy. And again, the opposite side of that is what most people do is they buy when it's popular to buy. Now, there's two other really important things to consider in addition to just when and where you're buying. It's what is your hold time, right? So are you buying Bitcoin and you're just gonna hodl or hold forever? Or is this something where you're an active trader and you're gonna get in here and you're gonna get out there, right? So your hold time matters. The other thing is taxes. This is something that a lot of people in the early days of Bitcoin didn't think about, and they got really screwed because they weren't considering how they were gonna be taxed. So you may be in a jurisdiction where there's no tax. You may be somewhere where they take over half of your take-home pay. That's something you want to keep in mind. And so in another video, I'll talk about the different strategies, the different time frames and the different types of trading strategies and setups and risk management that you can use. But in this video, I really just wanted to talk on kind of the 30,000 foot overview of like when are just the juiciest times to be able to buy Bitcoin to where you can minimize your risk and maximize the potential upside. So again, there's no guarantee that this stuff is going to continue to work in the future, but I will tell you, I'll be here doing videos to talk about whatever does happen. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you get value out of it, let me know. Let me know if you have questions, what types of videos you want to see. You know, like I said in my past few videos, I'm just really passionate about this stuff. It's changed my life and the lives of thousands of people that I've talked to over the past 8 years that I've been in this space. So yeah, reach out. Let me know what I can do to help you, what questions you have. Share this with a friend, like it up, and I'll see you next time. Take care.